Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to my latest tutorial. Today I will show you guys how to use the open source broadcasting software. It's called OBS. It's free, it's open source, and it is very useful. I paid for the DxStory software to record gameplay, but in practice it's a lot easier to use the popular open broadcaster software. This can be used to record locally, which is what I do the most, but it can also be used for live streaming. In this video I will show you guys mainly how it will work when recording locally, because I think it's easier to create a separate video for live streaming if people want me to. But it's also useful if you want to live stream. So let's get to the tutorial. The first thing you have to do is you go to obsproject.com. Links will be in the description down below, so don't worry about that. Well, what is OBS? Well, you can capture lots of gameplay, you can capture your screen as I'm doing right now, but okay, let's get back to the tutorial. You click the download button, which will bring you to this. You agree to the terms, you click download, which gives you an installer, and you install that. Also, I'm going to place a link in the description for the quick start guide. It can basically help you out if you want to add the live streaming part and stuff. It's pretty easy. Feel free to ask me questions. I will be more than likely to help. I've done so all the time since I started, so yeah. But let's get back to the tutorial. So guys, let's continue to the second part, which is recording. In my case, because I am recording, you can see screen in screen in screen, but that's regularly not the case if you're recording for yourself. That's just because I'm also using this software to record this, to show you guys. So okay, there are a few things you have to do. At first, in the corner down to your left, you see the scenes box. In my case, I have tutorial OBS selected, and to do that and give it a name for yourself is add scene. Then it will ask you how to call it, and you press, let's say I call it tutorial OBS, and you press OK. So in my case I already have it open, so I press the close button, otherwise press OK, and then you have an empty source box down here. So what I'm going to show you guys is how to record your game, your screen, to add a face cam in the top right there, and if you want to add a border around it and maybe some text, I'm going to show you guys that as well. It's not that hard, but first let's get started. Once you want to add a scene, you right click in the box at sources, you click add. There are three main things you want to record with. First of all is windowed capture. Windowed capture is pretty straightforward. It captures a window. That could be a web page, that could be a game played in windowed mode, or something else in a specific window. The next thing we can do is monitor capture mode. I am using Windows 7, and some people told me, and after some googling they told me monitor capture isn't the best when you use it with Windows 7, but you can. But the performance is a little bit worse, so I will not recommend using that all that much unless you want to record your whole screen. For something like this I am using it as well. I will show you guys how to use the window capture and the monitor capture mode, but first I will explain how to use the game capture mode, which is this one in the sources box. It's basically the best method of recording with the best quality to performance ratio, so that's the thing I recommend. So let's get started and I'll show you guys how to do this, and I will use Black Ops 2 as an example. You can right click, you press add, you press game capture, and it will give you something like this. In my case it's at the most down position of my sources box, so that means if I click that it will open or record or show you guys the Black Ops 2, which is running in the background on the foreground. But at first I want to right click it, I click properties, and if it isn't working for some reason because there's something else in the background, you want to right click it and you select properties, so you can see whatever you want to record. So most of the times it will instantly pick your right game, but if not, select Call of Duty Black Ops or press refresh button if you started it up after the program. You have a bunch of options here, but I'm not going to show you guys a lot about it. Well, you can record or left out the mouse cursor, so if you don't want to show the mouse cursor for some reason, you can disable this, but other than that, stick to these settings, and they are basically the default settings. So I'm going to click cancel over here, and now I am going to show you guys that it works. I will press game capture, and I will disable the monitor capture, and I will now also go to the game itself. So I am now recording Black Ops 2 for on the PC, and I will show you guys a little bit. I can click public match, I can do anything I like in the game, but let's get back to the tutorial. So give me a second. I'm going to disable the game capture, and as you can see, I haven't pressed the new check marker for the monitor capture. I'm going to do that right now, and it starts to record my whole monitor. So now we're already talking about the monitor capture. Let's show you guys quickly how to do this as well. You go to the sources box, you right click, you press add, you click monitor capture, and then you give it a name. After that you get something like this. I named it monitor capture tutorial. If you have this checked, you will record the whole screen, so also your private Steam messages, unlike for example the game capture mode. But let's right click this to see the properties. Over here you can select your current monitor you want to record with, 1 or 2 in my case. You can remove the mouse cursor, etc, etc, and you have a bunch of other options, but I will not go into detail about those. So there is just one more thing I want to show you guys about the recording, just the gameplay or window stuff. So let's go to the recording of a window, so the game or a specific browser window. I will show you guys how to record a browser window or a gameplay window as well. So let's get to that. You want to right click, you want to add, and you want to press window capture, and then you can give it a name. So you press OK after that, and then I named it window capture. So to show you the options, right click properties, and over here you can select which tab you want to use. You can select the inner or the entire window, remove or add the mouse cursor, and you press OK. If it's not listed over here, hit refresh, try it again. So as you can see, I have the monitor capture listed as on and the window capture as well. But if I disable the monitor capture like now, it will only show you guys the web page which I'm currently recording with this. So yeah, that's basically that. But let's get back. So I will disable the window capture and then record the monitor again. So yes guys, that's for a specific window capture. I've showed you guys that as well. So for now there are a few more things I want to show you guys, and one of them is to add a webcam, in my case my iPhone. I'm using it wirelessly. Second of all, I want to show you guys how to add a text like here under my portrait, and the third one is how to add the frame over here. And after that I will show you guys a bunch of settings which are also mandatory to use. But for now let's get back to the stuff I just mentioned. And one of them is, at first you want to add a webcam, in my case my iPhone. You right click the sources, you press add, you select video capture device, and you give it a name, you press OK. In my case this is my webcam, but for you it might be different. You have a bunch of settings here. You can use a custom resolution for your webcam, etc, etc. You can enable or disable your webcam microphone. It is probably crap to use your microphone from your webcam, but let's skip all the other parts and continue. So select it, press OK. In my case I already have it selected over here. If I enable the checkbox you can see my webcam. If I disable it you cannot see me anymore, but I will enable it again. Hi. So guys, another thing you want to do is you want to add a border. Well, how the hell do you do that? Well, it's easier than it looks. What I did is I created a square box in Windows Paint, a black square, and I placed it underneath my video source, so it looks like a border. That's basically it. You create a random square black box or pink, yellow, whatever you want, and you place it over here. Well, how do you do that? You right click sources, you click add, you add an image, and you add a black square. The next thing, if you want to add text, in my case something like this, you right click, you click add, you click text. You can even use an image slideshow. It's not really useful, but you click text. And then if you want to call it testing, in my case I already placed something over here. It's called testing. You call it testing. Press OK. After you pressed OK, you'll get a window which is something like this, which can be accessed by right clicking it and pressing properties. You select your specific font over here, use your specific color, etc. and over here type your text and press OK. If you want the text to be shown, make sure it is on top of your main capturing. So in my case it should be above monitor capture tutorial. If I hold Control, press it down, it will not list it. To show you guys how the layering works, I will briefly show you guys with an example. And then over here in my sources box you can see the testing, but what happens? I click the checkbox and it is not showing. Ooh, why guys? Well, I will show you guys. The sources box, the ones on the top is the top layer. You have to think of it as in layers. So first Mr. Google, which is my logo under my portrait, then my webcam, after that my monitor capture, and underneath that my testing text. Once I select my testing text, I hold the control button on the left and I press the up arrow on my keyboard. It will basically list it as one position higher. So my monitor capture is all the way down, so everything on top or above in the sources box will show. So I can also disable it over here and click it, which could be used for example also live streaming, coming back later, taking a break, whatever the hell you want. But for now, pressing Control and the down key, and you cannot see it anymore. So guys, now that you all know how to add your different sources to record them in different kinds of layers, I will show you guys how to edit it. Well, it's pretty easy. All of the selected parts are used in the screen you can see right now. So if I press edit scene, it will basically mean I can change around my stuff. So if I go to this border with my mouse, which is the black square I talked about earlier, like this, it's basically this. This is my portrait. And because it is layered underneath my webcam, you can use it like this to make it look like it is a picture frame. If I select my text, for example my Mr. Google, I can also change that around and move it to whichever part I like, but I'll place it backwards over here. Same thing goes for my webcam. If I want to use it like this, I can. So yeah guys, but for now I will place it back in the corner over here. So if there is anything on the screen over here, you can press edit scene and you can place it somewhere else. If you want to close the edit scene, you press the edit scene again and it is basically the final thing. For me, I am currently recording, but if I stop recording and I press preview stream, it basically gives you this whole box and it runs it as if it was recording, but you can then just preview it and edit the scene to your liking. So now we have come so far, we have to go to the final part, and that is to walk you through all of these settings. So let's get to that. Before we continue, there is one specific or a few specific things in the settings you have to adjust by your liking. So make sure you select your own scene to the left and then press settings over here, which will give you this checkbox. And in my case, you start off with general. You can select your own language. They have a lot of languages, so there's probably your language in there somewhere as well. In my case, I've set it to English for you guys, but other than that, most of them, leave them at default. Second thing you have to do is, I will first show you guys the encoding tab. What I like to use is this specific X264 encoder with a constant bitrate. Make sure that's checked. I believe it's default as well, but if not, select the constant bitrate. The max bitrate, in my case I have selected 9000 because I'm recording, so that's never a problem for your hard drive, but you can up it a little bit, you can down it a little bit as well. If you're live streaming, there are This is very much, so you want to downscale that by at least 2/3. But let's get back to just recording, which is what I'm using. In my case, make sure the settings are the same as in my screen for YouTube purposes. The audio encoding AAC, the format 44.1 kilohertz. YouTube doesn't support more, so there is no possible way that it can make your sound better if you select more than 44 kilohertz. So the bitrate 128, leave that at default. You can also select mono sound if that's something you want to do, but in my case I like stereo. So after you do that, you press the apply button down here, don't forget, apply. You go to broadcast settings and you can set your specific hotkeys for streaming or recording. In my case, I'm explaining you guys how to output a file only. So make sure at mode, instead of live streaming, which is default, you select file output only. I will show you guys the live stream default menu from here, but okay, so make sure your broadcast settings are set like this. I want to show you guys a tip. If you have two hard drives or one SSD in a hard drive or just one SSD or whatever, it's recommended to have two hard drives for recording. It's not required, but if you want to record in a high bitrate or not bottlenecking your hard drive, you want to select a different hard drive than, let's say, your drive where you're recording at. So if you have more drives, record on a drive other than your game is installed, so it can be used to its fullest. For video, your video adapter, please select your video card over here. In my case, that's an AMD video card, 7950. This thing is important. If your monitor is the full HD resolution, in my case as well, 1920 by 1080 pixels with this aspect ratio, please make sure you select the right resolution. You can also record a second monitor, but in my case it's set to this specific resolution. Another important thing is resolution downscale. Don't do that for now. You can downscale it at cost at your video resolution, but don't do it. Please leave this at default. For now, YouTube is going to support 60 frames per second, but currently for most games I use 30 frames per second. Once 60 FPS goes live, you can change this to 60. Once YouTube allows people, all the people, because some already are, to upload in 60 frames per second, select 60 frames per second over here. Do bear in mind, you're using one bitrate, so you have to double your bitrate to get the same quality with double frames per second. So if you are only doubling your frames per second, you're basically cutting your video quality in half, so please do bear that in mind. If you want to disable arrow, that could be useful when using monitor capture on Windows 7 a little bit for extra performance, but other than that, leave this out. You can disable it, just leave it for now, just leave it on. Okay, let's get back to the audio part. You want to make sure that if you are recording, in my case with a USB headset, and it has this microphone and my speakers. So for my desktop audio device, you select your current speakers. In my case, my headset. I also have a wireless headphone from Sennheiser, so if you're using a standalone mic, you can as well select that. But for me, I have to select my headset twice because it's also the thing where I'm recording at. But if you are using a specific other microphone, make sure to select it over here and click apply. You can also use push to talk, which means you have to press a button first before you can record what you are saying in the microphone. Not recommended. Other than that, make sure it's about the same as mine, leave it all at default for now and click apply. There's one more thing. We go to the advanced tab over there and compare this to, let's say, my settings. In my case, this is a pretty good setting. It's basically almost default. If you have a multi-threaded processor, you want to click that. Most people do nowadays, but other than that, for now on, leave these all to default. There is one more thing you can also use. I haven't used it for this video. The basic and default settings were fine, but I will show you guys how this works. This is your microphone threshold. So if you're recording and you have a lot of background noise, or the level is just simply not correctly, or it's not matching up that good, you can mess around with these settings, but for now they're working pretty good, so I'm leaving this at default. So guys, you should be able to record your gameplay now, just as I do right now. Feel free to ask me any questions, and check out the links in the description with the most important FAQ, the frequently asked questions. So if you want some help, please put a comment down below. Something else which is really appreciated, if you just leave a nice comment down below, a thank you, or a yes I liked it, or ask me your question, whatever. Feel free to subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, and yeah, hopefully see you guys next time. Goodbye.